Welcome to the Sam on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. My name is Sam McGinnis, one of your co-hosts for the Sam and Sam Show. I'd like to welcome on my other co-host, obviously with the first name Sam, of course, Sam Teets. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, McGinnis. Looks like we got some good topics lined up for today, so I guess we can start off like always with the NFL, right?
Yes, sir. It's been an interesting week. I just want to start with this one because I just think it's the funniest because people think it means something that Tim Tebow is back. I'm like, you realize that he's going to have like zero impact on the game for the Jaguars, right?
It's so hilarious how people have reacted to Tim Tebow
like, no, it's
being added to the Jaguars roster. Like, I understand that he's been out. He hasn't played in a regular season game in 9 years. I think the last time he was actually on an NFL team was in 2015 with Philadelphia. And he's now on the Jacksonville Jaguars, like on a 1-year contract as a tight end. So people are outraged about this. I'm like, guys, calm down. All right, he's in his mid 30s or so. Yes, obviously he's on the team because of the connection with Urban Meyer. Everyone gets that, but there's no guarantee he's even going to make the roster. I mean, he's not. Yeah. There's no guarantee he's going to be on the final roster. So I don't understand why people are so upset about this.
They're just seeing if it's even possible. And there's nothing wrong with that. I encourage teams, to go out and get as many people as they can because who knows that, ridiculously low draft pick like Tom Brady could turn into somebody like Tom Brady. So with that being in mind, you always want to give everybody a shot.
Yeah, I just find every take on this whole Tim Tebow thing is absolutely ridiculous. Like the people who are going out there and comparing this like other guys around the league, you understand it's an entirely different situation. And then the people are saying, oh, this is a great move by Jacksonville. It'll take all the attention away from Trevor. I saw someone try to argue that this was a smart move because it's going to take the attention away from Trevor Lawrence. And all the attention will be on Tim Tebow in training camp. So that Trevor Lawrence can just go about his business and not be hounded by the media. Trevor Lawrence has been the center of attention for 3 years at Clemson University. You think Trevor Lawrence really cares that much about the Jacksonville Jaguars' attention? Like, he doesn't.
Here's the thing
media in Jacksonville.
College quarterbacks deal with not that much less attention than do NFL players if they're going to places like Alabama and Clemson because there is a huge following of college football also. It's not that much smaller. Heck, some people exclusively watch college football. Yeah. So for me, I think that's just an absurdity. This guy's been dealing with this since he got to Clemson.
When it's not like it's the New York market or the Philadelphia market, it's Jacksonville. And the team's practically half owned by London. So I mean, really, it's not a situation where this is a major market team. So I think the whole premise that Tim Tebow's going to take attention away from Trevor and it'll be beneficial for Trevor is absolutely ridiculous.
Also, why has the media been covering this Tim Tebow thing so much? I don't understand this.
Because the name Tim Tebow has always gotten a lot of views, and it always will get a lot of views. So that's part of the reason why it's being covered. Also, it's just a very slow point in the offseason now that the draft is over. Yeah, it's just funny to me. Yeah, everyone needs content, but it is so funny to me because I understand that Tim Tebow has become a controversial figure, partially because he was so successful in college and also because he was so loved by some people, which just automatically makes you controversial nowadays. I mean, even look at guys like LeBron James. If you're successful, even Steph Curry to a lesser extent in the past couple of years, if you're successful, you'll be hated by a lot of people. And that's essentially what Tim Tebow was. I do have to agree to one point, though. I think Tim Tebow will become a massive point of media attention this offseason for Jacksonville. And if, he beats the odds and somehow ends up on the final roster, I still think he'll have a significant pull in the media. So he will be maybe the most watched player who will be on the bottom 5 spots on the roster of any team in the NFL. I don't think there will be a player that low ranked on any other roster in the league that will receive as much attention as Tim Tebow will this season, assuming, like I said, he actually makes the roster, which is not a guarantee. So I have no idea why people are freaking out about this.
Yeah, actually, we have literally no idea what we could get. He could turn into a legitimate starter, or he could literally suck so bad that he doesn't even make the roster. We have no clue. So it's like, don't start giving me some big crap about what he's going to be or not be until it's there, buddy.
Well, the Jaguars really don't have an established end you can count on week to week. So it'd be very interesting. If there is a team that Tim Tebow could make the roster as a tenant, it might honestly be this one. But I'm not saying a lot because honestly, I haven't seen Tim Tebow catch a pass in the NFL. I don't think he actually has one caught pass in the NFL. So that says basically.
Keep in mind, last year, the Jacksonville Jaguars started more players than any other team did throughout the entire season. So they might be willing to try new things.
Yeah, the Jaguars certainly are willing to try new things. They're also certainly willing to try out Urban Meyer's older guys from college and kick the tires on guys like Carlos Hyde and Tim Tebow.
This is
So
literally
it's
just a media fest. I love how blatantly they're not even going to try and hide it. It's hilarious, man.
well, it's Urban Meyer, it's Tim Tebow, it's Trevor Lawrence. You're going to get a lot of stuff coming out of Jacksonville this summer. I guess this is probably going to be the most media attention the Jaguars have gotten. Outside of maybe when Jalen Ramsey was trying to force his way off the team. Outside of a disaster level Jacksonville Jaguars from maybe 2 years ago, this will be the most attention Jacksonville's gotten probably in the past 10 years.
Yeah. All right. With that out of the way, let's move on to our next piece of NFL news.
Yeah, so the NFL has released their 17-game schedule for the upcoming season, and it includes a matchup, I believe it's in Week 4, between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New England Patriots.
Somebody wants some money.
Well, I looked at the ticket prices for this game. I don't think there's a ticket price below $1,000 for this game.
That's absurd. Oh my goodness, that's so absurd.
And the most expensive tickets are worth 5 figures, so over $10,000.
So here's the thing. This is one of the few times I'm actually not going to bash on the NFL for going for money. I'll explain this for one reason. Right now, they need it, and there's no reason for them not to grab it. It's your choice whether to pay for that $10,000 or not, right? So if nobody ended up paying for it, the NFL would back it off. So I feel like this is less on the NFL at this point because they do need to make some money from losses from 2020 and 2020. So I'm not actually going to bash them for once for going for money.
Yeah, I think individual teams set the ticket prices week to week. So I think it's the teams that are actually setting the numbers, but
I consider them part of the NFL though.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand. It's all it is. It's all kind of grouped
It's all
together.
the same general thing.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but that's going to be the key matchup. And also, because Brady's about just over 1,000 yards away from breaking Drew Brees' record for career passing yards.
Yeah, they planned it for that week.
And week 4, I mean, it would be a stretch. I don't think he's going to get there week 4. I think week 5 will be the week he does it. But I think there's a shot if he comes out and performs really well to start the year. And he certainly has all the weapons that would make him perform well. It really help him out there.
Tom Brady usually starts slow, actually, so I would say it's probably less likely to see that in week 4. Because remember, you look at the Patriots and the Buccaneers, that all those teams that won those Super Bowls usually started pretty slow.
Exactly. And at the end of the first month, we're usually talking about, is this the end? Is this how it ends? And it never is. So I think
conversations because I just know at the back of my mind there's that PTSD of nope. Tom Brady's going to the Super Bowl. I don't even care if the record's 0-3 right now.
Well, you were doing it last year after the first month or so. So I think it's really funny that we have the same discussion. We have it almost every year, but you're right. I kind of start a little bit slow, which is why I'm saying week 5, maybe in week 6 is probably more likely shot for him to break the record than in week 4. Some of the other...
I've even done that thing to myself, dadgummit. Never going to listen to myself again with that, by the way.
Yeah, no, we think we've been burned too many times to go back to that conversation. But
until it's dead and he's over.
Exactly, until he's retired.
Well, until I watch him absolutely blow himself in the face in the playoffs. Granted, he did that once this last year, but his defense bailed him out multiple times.
Yeah, as long as you win, it doesn't really matter how you played, right? So
yeah,
other potential revenge matchups out there. Sam Darnold and the Carolina Panthers are going to play the New York Jets at some point this year.
I'm telling you, Sam Darnold is going to be better. He will burn his own team. It will be funny to watch because Zach Wilson will be dying because one offensive line piece is not enough. So yeah, I think that game will be fun for Sam Darnold.
I think they're both going to get sacked a lot this year.
I think that's fair because both their offensive lines are total garbage.
Yeah, the Jets have maybe 2 pieces, but I just don't trust New York's offensive line yet. I think one more year will do a lot of good, but I don't trust them yet. The Eagles have the easiest schedule this year, which is good for them because they're going to stink. They still might win 4 games.
Remember, now this I might bash on the NFL for a little bit. Oh, yeah. It's always funny how we watch these schedules come out, and it's so conveniently that one of the big 4 teams in the NFC, the NFC East always get that big EC schedule. Especially Dallas has gotten that a few times.
Yeah, but also speaks to how bad Dallas has been a few times because you get to automatically match against the number 4 seeds in all the other conference and all the other NFC divisions if you finish last in your division as well. So part of that's the scheduling by the NFL. Part of it's just how bad the Eagles were last year. So they ended up with the easiest schedule, which, as I said, I still think they could win 4 or 5 games, and that'll probably be their peak this year. They're going to be horrible either way. The toughest schedule in the NFL this year, McGinnis. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Karma's a piece of crap, isn't it?
Karma for what? For being right most of the year last year.
So here's the thing about being right. It actually has to end with you being right, not just beginning with you being right.
Listen, I had a streak of 11 straight weeks where I was correct, okay? 11 straight weeks where I was right.
Team doofus. Oh, see, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is exactly what's going to happen. The Steelers are a decent team. This is the truth. They are. Ben Roethlisberger is a good veteran, and he's smart. So he'll know what to do. The problem is his arm will limit even earlier this year than it did last year. So they're going to ask him to do things he can't, and by week 8 instead of by week 12, he's going to be dying.
Yeah, Pittsburgh does not have a good offensive line.
Which, that'll only accelerate that.
Yeah, they only have one player on the offensive line with more than 1 year of starting experience.
Oh, yeah, that's...
So the offensive line's going to be bad. They got Najee Harris, so they're going to try to run the ball a lot. They'll do it highly inefficiently because, again, the offensive line is bad. And Ben will throw an average under 10 yards per completion again. So I think this team will still be, and the defense will be worse too because they lost 2 good corners this offseason. This team will still be
I'm not sure
around the 8 or 9 win mark because Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season. Now it's a 17-game season. Watch, he'll go 8-9 and be his first losing season. But I think you could see an 8-9 team or a 9-8 team. That's probably right around where I think Pittsburgh finishes this year.
Yeah, and I think that should say something about Mike Tomlin. He worked with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges or whatever his name was. Duck Hodges, was it?
Yeah, Devlin Duck Hodges.
Thank you. I was trying to get the nickname right. Oh my goodness! And they still did not have a losing season. Yeah, that's pretty good.
And one more potential revenge matchup here. The Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford.
See, here's the thing. This is not going to be
the Detroit Lions.
This won't be a revenge matchup because Matthew Stafford's too nice. But
will it be a revenge matchup for Jared Goff then?
I think it's more likely because remember, Jared Goff had this whole tantrum after he was traded to the Lions, understandably, of course. But I think this is more likely to be a revenge match for him than it is Matthew Stafford because Matthew Stafford's just way too nice. I don't think he could physically hurt a butterfly if he tried. He reminds me of Andrew Luck, is what he reminds me of. He's not nice, but he's of that esque.
And that his career almost ended too early because of the team he was on.
Oh, yeah. You see, he saw Andrew Luck. He saw Calvin Johnson. He's like, nah, I'm done. I'm out. This is what smart people do. They leave earlier. Poor Andrew Luck, too. Literally could have stuck around because the moment he left, the offensive line was fixed.
Exactly. And the offensive line was never good when he was there. And as soon as he leaves, so then they have like 3 Pro Bowlers along the offensive line.
See, they figured it out too late, and then he was already gone before the problem was solved.
Exactly.
That's all.
He's not coming back.
Let's get back to our modern news.
Yep, just 2 more pieces here. Kelvin Benjamin, former first-round pick by the Carolina Panthers, is trying out with the New York Giants as a tight end as well. So we have two guys switching positions to tight end. Kelvin Benjamin struggled to maintain his weight, or actually struggled to keep his weight down when he's in the NFL, which led to him slowing down quite a bit, having trouble separating. He was a standout player, I believe, at Florida State beforehand, but never really stuck in the NFL, despite having some interesting first couple of years in Carolina where he showed some promise. He just never could keep his weight down. And then one more other player who's a former first-round pick who hasn't worked out quite well at all either. Mike Hughes, former first-round corner for the Minnesota Vikings, was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs along with some late-round picks that they swapped. So now the Chiefs have a backup former first-round pick that really has not performed that well at all in his NFL career so far.
Yes, so meaningless move more than likely.
Yeah, pretty much. This is a depth piece move. You might see him on special teams a lot. You probably won't see him starting at all. I mean, there's always a chance that the guy turns it on in his 4th or 5th year, but you never expect that.
Do not underestimate special teams. They can really have an effect on games. If you really pay attention, early tackles versus late tackles on a punt can really mean the difference between a touchdown and a field goal. So just keep that in mind.
All right. on to some NBA news, and we have a lot of it right here.
I was about to say it's been a while since we've had some good content on the NBA. You must be pumped.
Yeah, I am. And then we'll run through this and we'll get right to your NHL stuff because I expect that to be probably the longest segment of the show here.
I honestly feel bad for you.
Yeah. Jaylen Brown. He's a star for the Boston Celtics. He's done for the year. He's going through wrist surgery, so he's going to be out for the season. It's going to probably be around, they said, 3-month recovery period, so he's going to be gone for a little while. We'll certainly be back for next season, but this year is over, and this year's probably also over for the Boston Celtics because they're
kind of screwed anyway. This was the final straw is what this was.
Yeah, they're going to be in the play-in tournament. They are not guaranteed a spot. I'm going to basically call it bye week because Andrew doesn't have to play in the play-in tournament. It's basically a bye game or whatever you want to call it. So they're going to have to play in the play-in tournament, which is something no one wanted, and they're going to have to face they're going to have to face the Hornets, and the Hornets have LaMelo Ball. The Hornets have some exciting players, so we'll see how that matchup goes for them. But Boston just has been turning the wrong direction for a while now, and certainly seems like things are crashing down around them right now. Their
window just shut in their face is what just happened. Should have taken advantage of it. Should have taken advantage of it, but unfortunately, because they didn't have enough stars, they just couldn't.
Yeah, and their players were so young. I feel like just such a combination during the Brad Stevens era where things just seemed to go wrong. I mean, you had Kyrie there for a little while. You have Kemba Walker there, but Kemba Walker's not performing at an All-NBA level anymore. You had Gordon Hayward, but then he fractured his leg. It's just so many different things that have come together here to lead to Boston not winning an NBA championship or even appearing in a finals, despite having so many talented players the last couple of years.
Yeah, this just happens. It's unfortunate. This happens to every team. At some point, your window screams shut in your face. Kind of happened to the Predators as well. Despite the fact that they are also in the playoffs, they're going to lose. It happens to every team. It's unfortunate. I don't know what to tell you. Heck, it even happened to the Patriots. If you ever thought, there was some team that could do it forever, it even happened to them. So, yes, it does happen.
All right, other injury news. Victor Oladipo is done for the year and could miss time next season after surgery on his right quad. Now, Oladipo, two-time former All-Star, former All-NBA player. He just turned 29 years old. He's been on 3 teams this season. He started off in Indiana, ended up in Houston, then was traded to Miami. Miami basically sent a bag of peanuts to Houston for Oladipo. He only played 4 games, though, with the Miami Heat, averaging just 12 points per game. And he will never play with them again because he's a free agent this offseason. Oladipo had previously turned down a 2-year deal worth more than $40 million from the Houston Rockets. It's basically said he wanted to get even more than that. He wanted to get more than that in free agency, and he got greedy, and now he's injured again. I mean, he's been injured for the past 3 or 4 years at this point, so I don't see anyone giving Oladipo any kind of significant money this offseason.
Yeah, no, this is just a bad move, wanting just a little too much there, and sometimes you can get burned for that. Honestly, again, we never wish an injury on any player. This is just the general thing. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. And then kind of screwing yourself over, it's just a double there for him. Unfortunate.
Yeah, so we'll see what's the next step is for Victor Oladipo this offseason. I expect he might even wait to sign with the team until next year because, frankly, I don't know what team will want to sign him when he's recovering and they don't know if he's going to play next year. So I don't know where he's going to end up. It's certainly going to seem like a long road back for him. But in more positive NBA news, Russell Westbrook has passed Oscar Robertson for all-time triple-doubles with 182. So now he's the all-time leader. And that record stood for quite a while. That was one of those untouchable records that had stood for so long. People never thought someone was going to approach it. And now Westbrook is just shooting past it.
I think the funniest part of this is you want to talk about meaningless records in the end. Just for
come on.
Yeah, and name me by the end of this the number of NBA titles he will hold. He is a stat pat if I have ever seen one.
Sure, he doesn't win a lot. I'll give you that. He doesn't. His teams don't win a lot historically. They did make it to the finals when he had Kevin Durant and James Harden with them. But other than that, he's not been able to.
If he was on the Lakers right now, I'd be more positive to his future, but he's not.
No, he's just not. I mean, Russell Westbrook is the first ballot Hall of Famer. Like I said, all-time leader in triple-doubles. He is a tremendous passer, facilitator. He's really aggressive, one of the most explosive guards in the league. But
he would be like if well, that's stretching it. He'd be like if Peyton Manning or somebody was on the Lions his entire career.
Yeah, I think the Lions have that effect on almost any player. I think any great player. But for Russell
Calvin
Westbrook,
Johnson, Barry Sanders, yeah, this is what this is.
for Russell Westbrook, the issue is that he's just not in the tier of players who can carry a team to the NBA championship. He's not in that LeBron.
He's the third player. Typically, those teams usually have 3 stars. I think the Lakers are probably an exception, but typically they have 3. I would see him as the third of the 3 if you had 3 stars lined up.
Yeah, I think he could be the 2, but it would have to be if he was paired with someone like Kevin Durant or LeBron James. Because the guys who I think are good enough to carry a team to the finals and win, LeBron, Curry, Durant. Joel Embiid hasn't proven it yet. Giannis hasn't proven it yet. Kawhi's proven it. So there's only really 4 guys in the league right now who I trust to be the true number ones in winning titles.
Next, you see what we need to do next week is have you rank those before the playoffs for your players who you think can carry the farthest on average or something. See, this is
I'll look at that. Some other news. The Lakers are battling to avoid the play-in tournament with Dallas Mavericks and the Portland Trail Blazers. There's one play-in spot left unclaimed in the Eastern Conference right now. So we don't know who that 10th seed is going to be yet in the East. It's looking like the Wizards are going to take it, but the Bulls I don't think have been eliminated yet, or maybe it's already been decided, just hasn't gone through in the schedule I'm looking at quite yet. But that final play-in spot, Warriors, the Grizzlies, and Spurs are playing teams in the Western Conference. We don't know who that 7th seed playing teams are going to be yet. Right now it's the Lakers. They are 40-30. Dallas Mavericks are 41-29. The Trailblazers are 41-30. So it's coming down to the wire here, but the Lakers do have a shot if they can just pull off a couple of wins here at the end to get by those guys. The issue, of course, is being that Anthony Davis has not been healthy. Dennis Schroeder has not been available because of COVID protocol, I believe. LeBron James has not been healthy. So if you're trying to make a late push here, you don't have those guys on the floor. It's very hard for me to see them making up that one game. They'll just need help from Portland and help from playing, their opponents. They're basically going to have to be handed here this spot because otherwise I just don't see them getting. They're playing the Pacers and Pelicans here in the final 2 games of the year, and neither of those teams are that good, but I could see them being difficult matchups for the Lakers, especially when they're shorthanded.
Yeah, and I honestly think they could get lucky. Again, in long seasons like this, we see this with the MLB, NBA, and NHL. Despite it even being late in the season, wins really can get kind of mixed up. I mean, bad teams can beat good teams even on a consistent basis, which, it can be odd, but I don't see any reason that this couldn't happen. It's just less likely.
Yeah, I still don't think it's less likely based on what we're looking at right now. Yeah. The Dallas Mavericks, by the way, are playing their second to last game of the season currently, and they're leading by 12 points over the Toronto Raptors, who are having a terrible year. So I think the Dallas Mavericks are safe. It's going to come down to whether or not Portland can close off their final game of the season is against the Denver Nuggets, who are a very good team. So you might legitimately see a chance of them not being able to win that game. And the Lakers, they'll come down to, can you win out here at the end and just push it across the finish line, push Portland down to that 7th seed. And then you don't have to play the Warriors because that would be the matchup right now. They would be playing the Golden State Warriors in the play-in round, and that's the matchup no one wants because it's Steph Curry, and there's just no way to guard Steph Curry effectively.
It's pretty much impossible.
All right, so looking at some of our news, the Knicks have clinched a playoff berth for the first time since 2012.
Is somebody happy over here on the right side? Well, yeah, this should be the people's right side of the screen because it's my left, so it has to be the right.
Yeah, it's just – I don't love the Knicks, but I just think it's funny that they finally made it after everything that's gone on. And it makes no sense how everything's gone down for the Knicks. Like, RJ Barrett has been good, but not great. He was their draft pick last year. Julius Randle, who was awful last year after they gave him a massive contract, was really good this year, probably going to be a second-team All-NBAer. And, they're in the playoffs again. It's just so weird how this was the year. Like, this was not the year I was expecting. So they don't have a true superstar. I guess Julius Randle has elevated himself maybe to that level. But they didn't go into the year with a true superstar, and now they're this of all times is now they're back in the playoffs. I wasn't expecting this, and they're the 6th seed nonetheless, so they are going to avoid the play-in tournament as it is, and they could end up even higher than that. I think they could end up as high as the 4th seed technically. So this is an overachieving year for the New York Knicks.
I personally love overachieving teams just because it proves teamwork over superstars, and even though the NBA is truly more superstar based, I like the extra of teams. One of the reasons I like the NHL that way. So, yeah, I think they're just fun to watch because even though there's not a true superstar, you really get to see the teamwork as a result.
Speaking of teamwork, the Phoenix Suns went from not making the playoffs last year to being the second seed in the Western Conference with a chance to steal the first seed.
You want to talk about a comeback right there.
Yeah, I mean, they really, this year, Chris Paul showing up certainly helped out quite a bit, but they were already turning in the right direction towards the end of last season with DeAndre and Devin Booker. Chris Paul showed up, and Chris Paul just transforms teams into winners wherever he goes. I mean, automatically, he just shows up and it's almost like an extra 13 or 14 wins every time he joins an organization. So that really worked out for Phoenix. They're probably going to be the 2 seed this year, 49-21 currently. It's the first time they've made the playoffs in a long time, since 2009. So you have to go back quite a while to actually the last time they were a relevant team. I believe 2009 was still the Steve Nash era. So it's been a long time. Steve Nash, who is now, by the way, the head coach for the Brooklyn Nets. So they've been out of it for a while.
Yeah, the last time they made the playoffs, I was 7.
Exactly.
Oh, that's bad. Good for them now, finally, though. Got to give credit to him for a heck of a comeback there.
We have another NBA franchise that's being bought out. This time it's the Minnesota Timberwolves by a group led by former New York Yankee Alex Rodriguez. He's buying the team along with some other, of course, it's never just one person. There's a bunch of other investors involved as well. But they're buying team for
teams nowadays is almost never one person. It's
weird. Yeah, because unless you have $1.5 billion just lying around, you're not going to be able to buy an NBA franchise. So that's how much they sold for. I think the Utah Jazz sold earlier this year. So we're seeing a couple of franchises changing hands now. But Alex Rodriguez is getting involved in the NBA.
There you go. I don't have much to say about that one.
Yeah, I don't really have much. It's just a little news, but there's not really no commentary to add there.
No, it's kind of like just that surprising fact somebody throws out and you just go, huh. And then that's just about it.
The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame is finally going to induct the class of 2020 on Saturday. Of course, this class was supposed to be inducted months ago, but because of COVID-19, they decided to push it off, so it's now just happening. And class for the NBA, at least, is highlighted by guys who are probably all top 20 players of all time. Tim Duncan, who's top 10 in my opinion. Kevin Garnett, who's top 20, if not top 15. And Kobe Bryant, another guy who I consider top 10 of all time. So they're all going to be involved, and Michael Jordan is going to be doing the introduction for Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, I can imagine that'll be a big deal, especially because of 2020. So,
yeah, that'll certainly be an emotional showing there. They're also opening a little bit of a little Kobe Bryant wing, a little bit of an exhibit for him with the Naismith Hall of Fame. So that's going to be an emotional weekend for a lot of Lakers fans and a lot of Kobe fans. But that wraps up our NBA news. So now it's finally on to, like I said, probably the main segment of our show today. NHL news and playoff predictions.
Yeah, this is fun. So we have some good matchups. We had some ones I would have liked to see that were actually switched at the last minute because the Avs decided to win a few more games than were expected to. But let's just get right into it with the first one here. Which one did I write down for? Yes. So the Lightning, due to mostly a loss of Nikita Kucherov and then for a small portion of the season, Steven Stamkos, which is their 2 best forwards, are actually 3rd in their division this year. We're heavy favorites to win it, even without Kucherov, but I think the addition of just Stamkos and then Kucherov is quite the forward. So between the two of them, they just couldn't get to that first spot.
Yeah, I actually have a question about this later on, so I don't want to dig too much into this personally because I do have something I want to talk to you about for thinking or dreaming one of our segments later in the show. But, I mean, look at the wins, 36 on the year, so it wasn't they were that far removed from the first spot, I guess, but was this surprising to you? I know obviously there's other factors in other than just how they played, really, but is it surprising they fell all the way to 3 in this division?
Yeah, for me, it was a little surprising, especially considering who replaced them, the Carolina Hurricanes. What? Yeah, that was a little odd to me. I guess I didn't quite consider how much Kucherov would have an effect not being there. I just assumed because of how deep the team is, because they truly are probably one of the deepest teams in the NHL, I assumed with all that talent, even without Kucherov, they would still be able to keep it up considering the other teams in the division. The other teams stepped up, and with the step down of the Lightning, between the two, you find them in the 3rd seed instead of the 1st, and they're going to be away game 1 against the Panthers, who have been a surprise team of this year so far.
What do you think the outcome of that game is going to be? If you just had to think, what's going to look like? They start the game. How do you think the Lightning are going to adjust to being the underdog in the situation?
Here's the fun part: they would be the underdog if you just looked. If you were just new to hockey completely and you just looked at the standings, you'd be like, "Oh, they're the underdog." If you want to talk about talent-wise, especially now that they're getting Kucherov and Stamkos back, they completely blow the talent of the Panthers completely out of the water. The only area that they sort of match up is with forwards. Goaltending is superior. Defense is superior, no question. So overall, I personally think, especially with them getting this back, we saw this happen last year when Stamkos came back in the finals and just absolutely destroyed Dallas, which was heartbreaking to watch. But I think it really shows their resilience in the ability to come back and be ready right away. I'm going to assume Kucherov can do the same, and I think they'll win this in 6.
All right, so 6 games there. What's the next matchup you want to talk about?
I think we're just going down the line here. The other Central Division matchup is the Hurricanes and the Predators. The Predators made a comeback this season I wasn't expecting. I was expecting this year to be the year that they finally just fell off the cliff completely. Last year, we started to see that. I still don't trust Pecorine, but somehow he's had a good year. And this Predators team has kind of surprised me.
Yeah, they held up the Dallas Stars at the very end because the Stars were on a little bit of a push. You mentioned like 2 or 3 weeks back.
The Stars shot themselves in the foot. That was their own fault. They lost. They lost a few games they shouldn't have, including one to the Red Wings 7-3. So, yeah, that was the Stars' fault.
But you look at this division; it really is the top 3 teams that are super competitive, and then the Predators at 4. So, are you taking? I'm guessing you're taking the Panthers here in this matchup, but is that what you're taking here? Is that who you expect to win?
Even though I'm taking the Hurricanes, I'm going to warn this. The Predators are one of the better teams to be an upset. If you're looking for an upset, if you're trying to pick one and you haven't yet, pick the Predators. I would assume you would have already picked the Islanders at this point because you probably should have. You'd be smart to do so. But I think the Predators we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it, okay? We'll take the shots. But I think the Predators are one of the better teams to upset here. I think they're a good, hungry team that really have been disrespected deservingly quite often. And I think they kind of feel that and they're ready to go. Plus, this is Pecorine's last chance at a cup at all. He's probably done here pretty quick, and he knows it. This might be his last shot. As a goaltender, you're going to give everything you got.
All right, so you're saying this is the upset to pick. Is it more about the Predators or is it more about the Hurricanes? I think I said the Panthers instead of the Hurricanes when I was talking last time.
I think it's a combination of the two. I don't think people are really high on the Hurricanes. I'm saying it right now. They are not going to win the Stanley Cup. They are not that good. They're good. They were good this year. Don't get me wrong. They were good, but they're not as good as their record shows. I think their forwards are really good. I really like Svechnikov and Aho, and I think they can win series. But if you really put them against a big juggernaut team like Boston, I mean, heck, they've lost to Boston both times in the playoffs. They've met them, you know? So I think they're a good team, but they have limits.
All right. Do you want to go to that matchup now we were talking about a little bit earlier?
Is that the next one down the line? Yeah, it is the next one down the line. Okay, so Penguins Islanders. I'm going to explain this right now. I have no idea how the Islanders ended up 4th. They're weird like that, but all 4 teams in this division are really good. And believe it or not, despite being 4th, the Islanders are the best chance at a Stanley Cup in the entire East Division.
Is this a situation where you're taking both the 3rd and 4th seed to end up winning these matchups here?
What was the next matchup here?
Capitals Bruins.
Yeah, I think it'll actually end up. We'll get to that series in a second, though. So yeah, for me, the Islanders last time they played the Penguins. Granted, the Penguins are better than they were then, but they lost by sweep, and the reason for that was mainly because their goaltending was great and their defense was great and their coach was great. You'll also note Barry Trotz the one year was the coach the one year the Capitals finally beat the Penguins in the playoffs and went on to win the Stanley Cup. So he has experience beating the Penguins multiple times. And between that and the good team defense and the great goaltending, I think the Penguins are better now, so they'll get a few games. But I'm thinking 6 or 7 games the Islanders wrap this up.
All right, McGinnis, we'll just have to let you be wrong with that one. I'm sorry, but
he's hoping deep down because I remember I told you earlier. It literally
you did. I think last week or 2 weeks ago, you told me this.
Better had you lost your last few games and ended up second playing the Capitals or something, or the Bruins, than it would be right now with you. This is probably the worst matchup you could have in this whole division.
Yeah, it's a very top-heavy division. This team, like I said, this probably is the deepest division when you just look at the playoff teams, because the top 4 are all very good. And the other divisions, they all have maybe 1 or 2 teams at the bottom that really are not that competitive. So this is probably the worst division to go into and be the leading team for the playoffs, because you actually have to face a very good team.
Yeah, the Islanders, this is the second year in a row they've kind of slumped near the bottom, but last year they made it to the 3rd round being a lower seed, so don't count them out by any means.
All right, Caps Bruins. You kind of hinted at it a few seconds ago, but are you taking the Bruins in this matchup?
So, 1, you still can't trust the Capitals. Not to say they couldn't win this series. They could. They absolutely could. But they have not won a playoff series since their 2018 run. Have not won a series since then. And on top of that, the Bruins have won series since then. Heck, they've made it to the Stanley Cup Finals since then. And yes, they've lost some defensive pieces this last offseason. They're not the juggernaut they used to be, but they still have a good majority of that core that knows how to go deep and knows how to play well. And if Tuukka Rask is healthy, they've got a better goaltender on the other end too. So I think ultimately I'm going to have to take the Bruins in 7.
All right, picking 2 seeding upsets. I'm not saying necessarily talented upsets, but they're seeding upsets technically in the Eastern Division.
Well, I think there's more talent on the Penguins, but I think there's better team play on the Islanders.
Well, now you're just making stuff up, McGinnis. All right.
That's not even true. It's the straight fact. Barry Trotz's entire system is team play. That is his whole thing.
West Division. First game in the West Division. The Avalanche versus the Blues. What do you think about this matchup?
Oh, man. So this could actually be – I think the Blues could steal a few games here because the Blues are good. And I think Ryan O'Reilly is a good leader. However, the Avs are definitely the better team. And if you'll note, if you actually count the overtime losses, the Blues don't even have a winning record. That should tell you how bad and how top-heavy the division was. The Avs and the Golden Knights are by far, outside of the Lightning, are the best teams overall in the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. And I think it's very likely we could see them playing each other in the second round. Like I mentioned a while back, that's going to be a great series if we get to see it. But I'm going to say in 5 or 6 games, I could see them pushing it to 7, but I'm going to say here probably in 6, I will say the Avs wrap up the Blues here. The Blues are not the same team they were when they had their Cinderella run in 2019. Jordan Binnington looks kind of like a 1.5-year, 1 and 2 year wonder, depending on how you want to look at it. He has not been himself since the playoffs of last year. And if that continues to be the case, the Avs have the weapons to absolutely obliterate him.
All right, the next matchup here, we got the Golden Knights versus the Wild. I'm assuming you're taking the Golden Knights here in maybe 5 games.
So I was a little upset that this actually ended up being this way. Not because I disliked the Avs or something, but if the Avs had played the Wild, I actually thought the Wild were a decent chance for an upset. Not that I would have picked them, but that would have been another one of those ones I'd be like, hey, look, watch out. They still have good weapons. They have Kaprizov. They have Cam Talbot who can turn it on. But yeah, I'm more to the defensive and goaltending-minded teams. I kind of like those better traditionally. And they have the tandem of Marc-Andre Fleury and Robin Lehner, who are probably the best tandem in goaltending in this entire league. So it wouldn't even matter if one of them all of a sudden sucked or got injured because the other one is just as good or of close par. On top of that, their defense is good. Their offense is pretty good too. This team really doesn't have much of a weakness. They're really fast on breaks. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to give this to them in probably 6 as well. I think the Wild could potentially upset. I think they're a good team and they're hungry and they're seated low. I mean, they're 3rd. It's not low, but they're a team of the future, especially with Kaprizov coming up. I think Capri Sun every time I hear that name, by the way.
Not gonna lie, that's also where my mind went. Are you gonna predict any? Are you
If
gonna
he
predict
turns out
any
to be on a
sweeps?
Capri Sun, watch him be a Capri Sun commercial in the end. Like watch him be on like the little Capri Sun bags.
The Respect the Pouch. Did you ever see the Respect the Pouch commercials growing up?
I've definitely heard that. I don't know if I saw I might have, but I've definitely heard that saying before.
You should Google them. They were some of my favorite commercials as a kid. Are you gonna predict any sweeps for the playoffs this year? Just wondering, because you haven't done it yet.
For the first round, probably not. I know last year and the year before I've predicted sweeps in the first round, but I don't think this year that's actually going to be the case. We're moving on to the Canadian division, though, or what is the North Division? It's really just
really just a Canadian division, honestly, but we'll call it the North Division to be fancy. The Maple Leafs versus the Canadiens.
This is also fun. So Carey Price helped the Canadiens get past the Penguins last year, speaking of failures.
Excuse you?
Sorry, I just needed to throw that out for extra. You lost to a team that literally got swept by the Red Wings that year.
Well, at least it wasn't the Red Wings themselves, but the Red Wings had to make the playoffs then, so it couldn't possibly have been them.
It was either that or the year before. Yeah, I think the Canadiens. No, it might have been the year before. Yeah, the Canadiens literally got swept, but so much shame in that statement. But yeah, I think the Canadiens could steal a few games here. I think Carey Price is really good, and the team kind of showed they could get pretty hungry. They even stole a couple games from the Flyers last year as well. So despite being kind of a regular season wash, they look like they could have some playoff potential. Overall, though, I'm going to say the Maple Leafs take this one. I will say there's a warning. If it comes to a Game 7, the Leafs will lose. The Leafs don't do Game 7s. If they want to win this series, they need to shut it out in 5 or 4 or 6 even. And I think it'll go – I'm going to say it'll go to 6.
Yeah, I think it could stay at 5, though, if you look at – honestly, the Canadiens are 24 and 21, and they have 11 overtime losses. They have a negative 9-point differential.
They're a bad team.
Are they the worst team in the playoffs this year?
Oh, absolutely. Heck, I'm going to go as far to say this. The Canadiens would not be a playoff team if they were in a different division. The Jets might not either. The Oilers, I think, probably would, but they might be lower seeded. And the Maple Leafs would, but again, maybe or maybe not lower seeded. They're doing well. But again, everybody's talking about how McDavid's like, oh, he had 100 points in 53 games. He played the Senators 10 times this year. What do you think was going to happen? Yes, it's still Connor McDavid, but when you're playing trash teams every week, what were you going to expect? Same thing with Austin Matthews. Breaking, like going off on these goal tangents, probably have 60-something at the pace he's going if it was a full season. He's also playing the Senators a ridiculous amount of times. So, you all need to chill out over there. Everybody's going to be talking about how these teams are winning playoff series, but it's only against each other. The moment they play an Avs or a Vegas in the third round, they're screwed.
Yeah, you're playing in the worst division in the NHL, so
by far, it's not even close. It's not even.
There's still one more matchup though in that division: the Oilers versus the Jets.
This is fun.
So the way you were talking, it sounded like you might lean for the Oilers here, but what do you think about this matchup?
See, this is concerning. So Connor Hellebuyck is definitely the best goalie of the two sides. I don't think Mike Smith even compares. However, Mike Smith can have hot streaks where he does. Last year, I picked the Blackhawks over the Oilers. I was rewarded because they had zero depth. It was literally Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl trying to carry the team to a playoff victory, and they couldn't do it. I'm concerned that will be the same case here. I'm going to take the Oilers with the caveat that this is much like the Predators series where this very well could be an upset. I am aware of this, but still taking the leader in this one because I think their depth issue isn't quite as bad. Instead of being 3 players now, they have probably 5 that can score. So that's slightly better. And I think overall, the Jets just aren't complete enough to get it done.
So when the Jets win this series, you'll know how I feel whenever I go out trying to predict playoffs and championships. I'm going to say, it's basically, I tell you what's going to happen, and then I pick the other thing, which is basically what you've done here.
See, I need to not turn into you, but I'm going to say that the Oilers will win, but there are good reasons the Jets still could. See, so I've adjusted it a little so that I don't look like you.
Hurtful. You could have worded that better.
I'm just messing with you.
I know.
You're pretty good until the championship round. It hurts.
Yeah, I mean, if you just listen to what I'm saying and don't actually listen to my pick, and you usually will get it right. But
see, yeah, because you'll get it with all the really intelligent, like every good reason, and then you Teets.
Like here's the logic why here's the logic why Team A should win and will win. But I'm taking Team B anyways, just because I feel like it. So that's basically what I do. But
see, that's why I had to stick with Baylor back. I was like, no, you guys aren't taking me with you. Not this time. Oh.
All right. Any more NHL news? Anything else you want to talk about here?
The playoffs start tomorrow. The first game is actually the Capitals Bruins. It's at 7:15. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to watch the whole thing because I got my own game later that day. We are incredibly short benched, by the way. We have 9 skaters and 1 goalie.
What happened?
We had so our team is structured into many different teams with different levels of skill, and it so happened that 2 of our skill levels that have crossover players are playing at the exact same time.
Oh,
so we have less players now. So I'm going to be really tired. But yeah, overall,
but you got your first goal. You got your first goal last week, right?
Yeah, it was nice. I got 3 points that game, too. I had a couple of assists. We played well, and I fell over a few times because I still can't figure out. See, I go really fast and then can't stop, so I'll just, like, run into the boards.
That's kind of important, McGinnis. The stopping part usually is very important.
See, I can turn. I just can't, like, full dead stop. So I'll go really fast because I'm a fast skater. But then I'll just I'll just keep going.
Yeah, McGinnis, that's like me saying I can drive really fast. I just don't know where the brake is. I mean, that's
exactly what it is. And I'll car crash every time. But as long as I'm getting the points, who really cares?
All right. I guess that'll do it for our NHL news and playoff preview here on the show today. So we're going to go into our usual segment, Thinking or Dreaming, which is basically we'll throw out 2 statements to each other, and the other person will tell us, is it thinking, is it dreaming?
I have a third one. I have a third one today that isn't really a thinking or dreaming question, but just curious if you know the answer to this one.
All right, yeah, we can roll with it.
But I'm curious if you can guess it.
Oh, okay. I just looked at it right now. I'm going to take a few minutes to think about this as we go through the first couple of ones. But all right,
I'll give you a little because the Sam and Sam show quick preview before we get to that question was actually supposed to be a different show before it was the Sam and Sam show, and it just never happened. That's where the idea of the Sam and Sam show actually came from. So just giving you a little bit of a preview here. All right.
Oh, no, I'm going to get this wrong.
This is our 30th episode, but I'll go first while you're thinking about that question. If the Penguins lose in the first round again, something has to be changed in management or the players. Something has to be moved around so that's significant.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Just because we're at a point where you got some aging players on the roster. I obviously have Sidney Crosby there.
You got to keep Crosby. That's an obvious.
You have to keep him. You can't get rid of him. I mean,
trading Crosby would be stupid.
No, you have to understand. You have to go down the ship with Crosby. He has to be around for as long as he wants. So he's earned that at this point. But you've won 3 Stanley Cups with Sidney Crosby. The question now is, what was the last time you won? 5 years ago at this point. So you got to put together. You got to get in the mindset that we have to do something to get past this initial round. So what they've lost in the first round, is it 3 years in a row now, or 2 of the last 3 years? I mean, it's been. So
in 2018, they won a playoff series and then lost to the Caps. They have not won a playoff series since that time.
Yeah. So 3 years then, 3 years in a row now, they have not won a playoff series. You have to figure something out.
Because this year's hasn't happened yet. Yet being the operative word.
Oh yeah, you're right. So yeah, you're right. Well, but you're proposing the idea that if they were to lose in the first round, so that would make it 3. So I'm at a point where, because you can't have a streak like this, and it's the same thing with Pittsburgh at this point. The Steelers in football, I kind of have a point where you can be a very great places. Yeah, you can both Pittsburgh teams. You can win a lot in the early and mid 2010s, but we're at a point now where you haven't won in a couple of years, and you have the talent. Hypothetically, you should be able to win. You should be able to get past the first game in the playoffs. The issue is that you haven't been able to do that, so you're going to have to shake things up here. In the NFL, that generally means shaking up the roster. In hockey, it's probably a little bit different, but I think you have to consider definitely making changes to the roster here moving forward if you can't get past the first round again. Because
Generally,
look,
this is how it goes. In the NHL, if you shake things up, this is what happens. You fire a coach, he goes into the recycled coaches, and then somebody else takes him. That's how that goes every time. It's hilarious.
Yeah, you might want to consider that. You might want to you don't have to do it, but you have to think about it a little bit. You have to start wondering, is it getting stale? Is everything, Sullivan's been there for how long? I think this is 5th year.
So the Penguins GM actually retired this year, tried to come back, and I don't know if he's actually still managing or if they rejected him returning. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly how it went down, but he actually retired and then tried to come back somewhere else or at the Penguins or something. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, well, either way, I agree with you. Something has to change here if things don't get going in the right direction. And they've been winning. They just won their division this year, so it's hard to say that it's not like they're struggling. It's not like they're a bad team, but you have to have playoff success.
All right. You got your first for me?
Yep. We kind of hinted at this already, but the Boston Bruins will upset the Capitals. And I said in 6 games, I'm going to shorten it. The Boston Bruins will upset the Capitals in 5 games.
Okay, it's technically possible, and I wouldn't put it past the Capitals because they seem to be nincompoops in the playoffs. But I will say overall, yes, that they will be upset. Keep in mind, though, remember what I said. The Capitals could actually win this series, but I think the Bruins will. I don't really think overall it's really that much of an upset. But if you're going to call it for just the straight standings, sure. This is thinking.
All right. That went by pretty quickly. I'm going to go with you there. I'll say fine, but I think 6 games was my original pick. I think that'll be more likely, but I think the Capitals are going to lose this series.
I think it'll be in 6 or 7. I'll give it 6 or 7.
All right. So you want to give me your second one?
All right. The Browns will win at least 12 games this coming season.
I'm going to pull up their schedule right now just so I can look at it. I'm pretty sure they will, though. I'll just say it right now. I'm very confident with the Browns. They have a very good roster.
They do. So, the only thing that could hold them back is Baker Mayfield, and I don't think he would hold them back enough.
Yeah, I think from what they did last year, they were able to, Baker Mayfield struggled early, but then they figured it out, and they were running the ball well enough that I feel confident. And the offensive line is so good, and they have good receivers. Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't even on the field for most of last year. They open against Kansas City. That's not a great start to the year, but then they get Houston,
They could actually
Chicago.
win this game, though. That's the thing. It's not out of complete reason that they were close to beating them.
I know, but they were supposed to beat them when Chad Henne was in the game, not Patrick Mahomes.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah. But no, I think that's going to be a really fun game, though. That's going to be like a must-watch game for the week.
That should be the game of the week if they're looking at it in week 1.
Yeah, 2 very high-powered offenses, that one. But then they play Houston, Chicago, Minnesota. Those are 3 easy wins, in my opinion. And just scrolling down the schedule, you get Cincinnati twice. Those are probably 2 wins. It's a tough division. The AFC North is probably one of the 3 best divisions in the NFL right now. So they're going to struggle. But it's a 17-game season, so you're assuming they're going to go 12-5. I can see it happening. I think this is thinking. I think it's more likely they go maybe 11 wins, 11-6. But I think 12-5 is certainly within reach. Maybe even 13-4. I wouldn't rule that out either.
Yeah, I think that extra game really helps that.
Yeah, no more 8-8 teams, which is really depressing.
This is wrong, and we both know it. But we have to live with it because we're not in control of it.
Exactly. Sorry, I'll give you my second one. The Lightning are the most dangerous 3rd-seeded team in the NHL. I think you're going to agree with this one.
Yes. I don't. There wasn't a faster way for me to say yes than just saying it as soon as you were done. The Lightning, honestly, are better than some of the first seeds that we have. The Maple Leafs, for instance, they're far better than the Maple Leafs are. So yeah, I think again, one of the reasons they're probably a 3rd seed at all is because they didn't have Kucherov for, the entire year. So remember, he was an MVP candidate in he literally won the Hart Trophy in 2019. So despite the fact that they choked that year, keep in mind the dude literally scored over 100 points that year. He's a phenomenal forward, and he's been out for the whole year. And they still and I think they might have had Stamkos out for some portion of time also. So Yeah, they are by far the best third seed. Let me double check here just in case I'm missing something. But you have
I don't think you are.
You have the Lightning as the third seed. Boston is a third seed. The Wild and the Jet. Yeah, Boston is the only one that comes close to that. And maybe the Wild, but they're not better than them. But they would be like somewhere in the tier list.
All right, so you've got your final question here for me.
This is fun. It wasn't a technical name, but I'll see if you can't get this. What was the Sam and Sam show supposed to be named before it was the Sam and Sam show? I'll give you a little context. I don't remember exactly when the idea came about, but I was supposed to do this with another sports writer I knew at the time. It didn't end up working out, which is fine. But then much later, me and you ended up doing this. But yeah, can you guess the original name of what the Sam and Sam show was supposed to be? It was based around the fact that it was a multi-sports podcast. No, the name was not multi-sports podcast. I cannot guess that.
Is it three words?
Is it three? Let me think about this.
Hypothetically.
Yeah, I'll call it three. I'll call it three.
So was it Sam's and Sports or something like that?
The other guy was not named Sam.
Oh,
just keep
I
that
don't know
in mind.
then.
The Sam and Sam show is completely separate.
Okay. I'm scrolling through our DMs on Twitter, McGinnis. I've been like rapidly scrolling up to try to find.
You could, I think, if you actually hit Control F if you were on your computer, and then just start searching words, it'll instantly pop up as to whatever word you were searching.
Yeah, you're right. Don't teach me how to use my own computer, McGinnis. Okay, it makes you look old.
My dad's way older than me, and he literally works on computers all day for GE. He's literally the tech guy. That's the only reason I know how to do that Control F thing.
Yeah, well, I don't use Control, but I do use word search quite a bit because I tend to scroll through my own articles trying to find specific words. But I don't know actually. Then what was it supposed to be?
So I'm not sure it was a technical name. This might have been it, but it was originally supposed to be the Try Sports podcast. The reason for that is because at first it was only supposed to cover the NFL, NBA, and NHL. Those are the three main ones you'll note we cover, but we still cover MLB, college sports, and is there anything else besides those?
Those are the only two that we've talked about other than this right now. I mean, if something big happens like in the world of golf or something like that, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we have not.
I think originally it was supposed to start in March or April, sometime in spring of 2020.
Right, and then we didn't start until August, I believe, right? Was our first episode?
Yeah, we started a few months later. So yeah, there was supposed to be another show. It didn't work out. We turned into the Sam and Sam show. I'm liking the way this one turned out. Not to say the other one wouldn't have been good or anything, just different crossing paths there.
I think it's worked out great, and we got even better content coming up for you next week at same time, Friday, 9:30, where we're going to be talking about more NHL stuff, obviously, because we're going to have the playoffs starting up. And then, of course, we can talk about the NBA, because the NBA will be right around the corner. So we're going to be definitely focusing on those two sports quite a bit. The NFL, of course, will have a few tidbits here or there, but I imagine it'll get a little bit quiet. Yeah, it'll get a little bit quiet, and we can focus on the NBA, NHL, maybe some baseball in there as well. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Again, same time, 9:30 on Friday. We're here 9:30 Friday Eastern time. And we do this every single week. McGinnis, where can we find your articles and all your sports knowledge?
All right, you can find me at SamuelMCG22 on Twitter and Instagram. I post stuff on the NHL all the time, and I'm about to start what I did last year too. I do a little bit of a goofy thing on Instagram. I think you saw this probably last year, Teets, where I do eliminations along with sad songs to go along with those people that just got eliminated. I personally found that much enjoyable, especially when it was teams I didn't like that left. I got to make funny little tidbits. If you're looking for stuff that's slightly more serious, this is probably more my Twitter side of it. You'll find both my OTH hockey stuff there along with the Grueling Truth stuff I do. And we're starting up a weekly podcast on OTH hockey for the playoffs as well.
Yeah, so there you go. You're going to have a lot of content coming your way from Sam McGinnis. You can follow me at Sam_Teets33 on Twitter, where I post all my articles, stats, and basically anything else I work on, any kind of videos. You can all find stuff there. And also go to check me out on YouTube at Sam Teets. That's just the channel name. It's pretty unique. You're not going to find many other Sam Teetses on YouTube or any other platform for that matter. So
anywhere.
just search it. My face is on the logo. It's fine. You'll find it.
You trust me. There's not a whole lot of Sam Teets. There's actually a number of Sam McGinnises, which I find somewhat disturbing. We actually one time literally met my brother. His name is Jake. We literally near our same town found another Jacob McGinnis. It was the creepiest thing. I tell you what, because it was like not related, same town. I don't know how many McGinnises there are, but there's apparently a few.
Apparently a lot. Apparently a lot of them.
Apparently there's enough.
All right. Well, we'll wrap the show here. Thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. You can drop a like here on Facebook or whatever platform you're viewing us on. But you can find all of our previous streams on the Gruel and Truth Facebook page. It's just Gruel and Truth. Go search it, and you'll find all of our content there. We'll probably run this again tomorrow morning, so get more views then as well. But thank you all. Like I said, thank you all for dropping by. We do appreciate you. Next Friday, 9:30, same time, same show, same hosts, and we'll have a lot more content for you then. But thank you for dropping by. Have a good weekend, and we hope